Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. On today's video, I'm going to be taking some items that I purchased from the thrift store and I'm going to change them up and make them more my style. So let's just go ahead and get started on today's projects. I love picking up these little glossy white pieces when I find them at the thrift store because they are just the perfect background for an IOD transfer. And I also never try to transfer on a silver piece, so I figured we would go ahead and try that and see how it came out. The Milos pages, the new release from IOD, is just going to be the perfect option for these. So I'm just going to go through it and pick out the pages that I want. As you can see, they had fish, they had eggs, they have florals, they have vegetables, just so many different cute little images that you can put on a ton of different pieces, or you could use it all on one piece. I decided to use the strawberries on the egg cups. I got this little fruit for the silver pitcher. And then for the glossy white one, these florals are going to look absolutely amazing. So like I said, you could use them all individually. You could use them in a cluster like I'm doing here. I'm using 3 of the florals. And you could also use the entire page on its own. So many options with this transfer. And y'all, look how good this came out. I love it so much, and this is exactly why I thrift these glossy white items. Once you add a transfer, it just takes it over the top. It looks so amazing. So for these little egg cups, they had all these little numbered strawberries. So I cut out all the little individual strawberries with their tiny little numbers, and I applied them to these egg cups. When you are working with transfers, you want to remember to pull that clear piece up slowly. That way, if anything did not transfer, you can just put it back down, use your transfer tool to make sure the entire image is on there. Also like to use painter's tape just to keep it in place. Y'all, these look so good. So like I said, I have never used a transfer on a silver piece, but I am all up for experiments to see how things come out. I like to use painter's tape, like I told y'all, to keep the transfer in place. And your transfer is going to come with a white part and a clear part. And you remove the white part and put the clear part on your piece. And they all come with this little transfer tool that you rub over your transfer, and then it goes on to your piece. And as you can see, the transfer changes colors as it releases from the clear backer. And I like to do a combination of rubbing and pulling up. I just find that's the quickest way. So I just rub a little bit, I pull up a little bit, and that's where the painter's tape comes in handy, so it keeps everything in place. So this is what it ended up looking like on the silver piece. And I have to be honest, I didn't really care for it, especially seeing it next to the glossy white pieces. They just look so amazing on there. So I decided to sand it. It is something I do very often when I do transfers on wood. It did not work on the silver piece. So you saw what it looked like. If you liked it on the silver, it absolutely does transfer onto silver, but it just wasn't my favorite. But you never know until you try. I am, however, completely obsessed with how these cute little egg holders came out. You could use them to put eggs in. You could put a little bird's nest in them with a bird. You could put, oh, if you found some faux strawberries, that might look cute. I just feel like there's so many options. I love these. Y'all remember these pieces I made a few weeks ago in my video? I love how they came out, but my original plan was actually to drill a hole in the top of these little knobs and finials, and then I came across this one at the thrift store, and so I figured I would show y'all exactly what I had in my head. My plan changed because when I pulled the screw out the bottom, I realized I could just put the floral because of the shape of the finial. But since this one has a rounded top, I'm going to drill a hole right in the middle, and then I'm going to take this floral that I already have on hand and I'm going to hot glue it into the hole that I drilled. And I just love the way that this looks so much. You have this little round wooden finial, and then you have this top part that looks like a little faux tree. So you will absolutely be seeing me thrift more of these little wooden pieces so I can make more of these little trees. I have been seeing so many creators use this summer villa IOD paint inlay on furniture, and I think it's just so beautiful. However, y'all know I don't really do furniture, I do smalls. So I have this bread box that is a little big, and I figured we would try the paint inlay on this and see how it comes out. Spoiler alert, it comes out amazing. The first thing I want to do is just pull off the knob. That way I have a smooth surface to work with. This paint inlay comes with 8 pages. I am only going to be using 2, and with the paint inlays you can use them once, twice, sometimes 3 times. So it's lots of value for your money. I'm only, like I said, using 2 pages. I trimmed off the excess in the center of the pages, and now I'm going to tape them together. So that way I have the images exactly like they are supposed to be. I decided to put the inlay on my bread box and trim it out to the exact size that I need. You don't have to do this, but I just thought it would make it a little bit easier. But I am going to be using the pieces that I cut off, and I'm also going to be using this paint inlay more than one time on this breadboard. And luckily it has this grid pattern as well that makes it super easy to line everything up and trim it to the correct size. I'm going to be using the pointed sash 18 along with some chalk paint to paint this bread box. So far, I have only used chalk paint with my paint inlays. That's what they recommend on the packaging. However, I have seen other creators use in paint with a built-in sealer like Fusion and also decoupage medium. So I plan on definitely doing some experimenting with that and see how the inlays do with those products. But for this project, I will be using chalk paint. So I've already chalk painted my entire piece, and now I'm putting an extra layer of chalk paint on because you want to put your inlay into wet paint. So I just put an extra layer of paint where I want the paint inlay to be. So if you don't have wet paint, your paint inlay should not stick to those areas. And then I'm going to put it into my wet paint. You want to put the inlay paint side down, so the darker side, that's the painted side. You want you want to put that into your wet paint, and then I like to use a brayer just to smooth it out. So I did the top of the bread box, and now I'm going to come down and do the front side of the bread box. And I did think about it ahead of time and positioned it to where this beautiful image of this bull would be right on the front of the piece. You don't want to overwork your paper too much, but once everything is nice and smooth, you're going to take your spritzer bottle. This is a Fusion spritzer bottle. This is available on my website along with all the other products that I used on today's video. So you're just going to lightly mist your piece. You're going to see it change colors, and then you're going to leave it alone and you're going to let it dry. Y'all remember those side pieces that I cut off the inlay? I feel like they kind of naturally fade out. So even though they don't fit the entire side, I think it'll look good. So I'm just going to do the same process I just did. I'm going to add some paint. I'm going to put my paint inlay, and then I'm going to spritz it. All right, magically our piece is already dry. Normally I just work on other projects while I let this dry. It is not hard to do a paint inlay, it's just more steps, but I just work on other stuff while waiting. So I have my spritzer bottle again. We've waited for it to dry, and now we're gonna wet it again. So once your piece has been misted, you can start pulling up your paint inlay. Now I want to take a minute to tell y'all that if you are using a paint inlay, you have to be okay with a distressed, unique look. And that's what I personally love about the paint inlays and stamping, is that you get this distressed, old look that you just can't recreate with anything else. So you're just going to slowly pull up your piece, and you're going to see it's more distressed in some areas, it's darker in other areas, but it's still a beautiful image. Now, I think where the tape was in the middle of my paint inlay, I should have pushed down on that with my finger a little bit more instead of just using the brayer. But overall, I am extremely happy with the way that this came out. And do not crumple up your paint inlay after you use it, because you will be able to get more uses out of it. It is so satisfying to pull off the paint inlay. Now remember, the paint is wet, so just be careful not to touch it too much. Now, I told y'all earlier that we can use the paint inlay more than one time. And when you pull down the door of the bread box, you have this other surface right here that you will be able to see when the bread box is down. So I figured, why not put another paint inlay right there? So I'm going to be using just a part with the bowl, and I'm going to put it here. So once again, you're going to put your paint down, then you're going to put your paint inlay down, then you're going to mist it, then you're going to let it dry, and then you are going to pull it up. So like I told y'all, it is very easy to use these. It's just a little more steps than you might be used to. So just have another project ready to work on while you're waiting for your inlays to dry. So this is what it looks like the second time around. I actually love the second time around of paint inlays because it's just a little bit more distressed, a little bit more my style. And I feel like with the black paint, you could really get 3 uses out of it. And we are going to continue with that distressed look. So now that my paint inlay is on, I'm going to take some 220 grit sandpaper and I'm going to hit all the edges of this bread box and let some of that wood come through. And also on the sides, I'm just going to be distressing some of the paint inlay. That way it kind of flows and there isn't like a hard break in the paint inlay. You know what I mean? So if you have any mistakes at all, just distress it and you'll be good to go. Now, do not wet distress it because that does not work good on the paint inlays because that'll move your paint around. So I use a dry paper towel and just rub off all that extra chalk that comes off when you distress it. You also are going to want to seal your piece. I like to just use a spray sealer with the paint inlays. So I hope I did a good job explaining the process to y'all and giving y'all a little confidence to go ahead and try the paint inlays because they are fun and they give you, like I said, a look that you just can't recreate with anything else. Alright guys, that is the end of today's video. I hope y'all loved it. I hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope y'all were inspired. Please leave a comment below and let me know what was your favorite project that I created today. And of course, all of the products, paint brushes, paint inlays, IOD, all the things are available on my website, juliesdesignsandsigns.com. So y'all go check it out. I'll have a link to everything in the description below. Y'all have a wonderful day and I will see you in the next video.